Does Mike Matheson have a top 5 contract in all the NHL? We'll be getting into that a bit later, but first, a quick Habs Hurricanes recap and the unfortunate ending in the shootout with an ex-Habs sealing the deal, plus Sean Farrell and Lane Hutson are raking in the awards in the NCAA, so you won't want to miss anything on this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, alongside my co-host, Jesse Poirier. Quick reminder before we get into the video to hit that subscribe button. Help us hit 5,000 subs. We're not that far away. We know you guys can help us out with that. Alright, guys, so, no recap last night. We were a bit busy, couldn't quite make it happen, but we're going to do just a couple minutes here talking about the Habs Hurricanes game. The Habs and Hurricanes, there's now sort of a rivalry between these teams. There's some pictures going out of one guy saying how much he hates the Hurricanes as Habs fan, but ultimately the Habs had a really good game, Jesse. I thought they played really well early. It's unfortunate it ended the way it did with the Kotkaniemi shootout winner, but honestly, did you think the same as me in that Montreal kept up really well with this amazing Carolina team for most of this game?
They did, and it was really the fourth line to thank for a large part of that. And I thought probably one of our key players of the game was Pezzetta, along with Matheson, who we'll get to a little bit later as well. Mm-hmm. But I really just loved, Pezzetta's game. The fourth line just, along with Tierney and Belzile, just getting to the front of the net, making those dirty, plays, making those hits. But what I really liked is just the Habs showed in this game the ability to anticipate the play and put, the pressure on players, forcing them into bad passes. And then you see how that leads so well into the rest of our game, which is that transition game. So being able to capitalize on that, and I think just building on some really good habits was great to see last night.
I think that's a great point, and I don't think Carolina was expecting Montreal to come out with such tenacity in last night's game, because Carolina's not a team that's usually getting outshot, especially early in the game, but Montreal was all over them, outshooting them. An early penalty drawn by Belzile off a pass from Pezzetta. Later, Belzile scores off a rebound from Pezzetta, and then later in the first, Jonathan Drouin with what I think was an intentional drop pass to Mike Hoffman for a beautiful goal. And then in the second period, that line connects again, Tierney Belzile, but it's Michael Pezzetta finishing it this time to put the Habs up 3-1. I mean, Jesse, we've been talking about depth scoring, and we have some players we'll get into in a bit that might be on the Habs roster next year, but that fourth line, Tierney, Pezzetta, and Belzile, they've been playing pretty well every game they've been together. But how many of them do you think have a legit shot at a roster spot next season? Obviously Tierney's, I think you'd have to sign him again, but I'm starting to worry, even with how good these guys are playing, is there even going to be a spot for them come next year?
Well, that's just it. I've been thinking that regarding Pezzetta, but I think he has done enough. I think that he has had enough of an opportunity being here with the team the full year. I think he has an advantage over somebody like Alex Belzile, who has been playing great of late, but just hasn't had that same amount of run. So I could see Pezzetta getting a chance next year, although it is going to be a tight roster, but I do see him. I think that he's definitely deserved it. Playing the game in the right way, night in, night out. Not even a huge guy, but standing up for his teammates, just doing all the small details right. I think that he's done enough, but maybe for Belzile, it's hard to say, but it's hard to imagine him getting a crack at this roster next year.
I say let him be a captain in Laval, and he might be one of the first names ready to call up, same as this year. Feel good for the guy, finally getting some goals in the NHL. But Jesse, the big thing about last night's game, yes, the fourth line played amazing. Yes, Drouin had a good game. Matheson played well. But the big news was Suzuki's shootout goal, and I want to have this quick discussion before we move on to our next topic as I show the Suzuki goal in the shootout. Just pure filth. I'm going to show it one more time for you guys because that is just disgusting. Jesse, do you think he has a case to be the best shootout scorer in the NHL this season?
Yeah, and I think he's a much more skilled player than even we've seen from him. What we're seeing on these shootouts is showing the potential of Nick Suzuki, what it is and what it will be at the future. And my friends, Habs Digest community, we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg yet when it comes to Nick Suzuki. He is a very young hockey player with tons of skill and a huge ceiling. For me, he has to be the best, on a shootout on the breakaway since Pavel Datsyuk. Nobody else is coming close. Maybe McDavid and a couple of these other ones, but for me, Pavel Datsyuk was always kind of the cream of the crop. Mm-hmm. And when you see Nick Suzuki kind of doing those similar moves, has to put him near the top of that list.
Yeah, it bodes well for him. I mean, of course, there's some guys, like you said, McDavid, and you got guys like Kaprizov who just make it look so easy. But yeah, Nick Suzuki is up there for sure. I think he has a case, if you look at his resume this season, for sure, to be the best shootout/breakaway guy in the league. Which just, again, Nick shoots some more shots. Like, this guy can score so many more goals than he already has, and he's already at a career high. So we'll keep an eye out on Suzuki. But yeah, good game for the Tank. Lost in the shootout. We only got 1 point, but the Habs played well against one of the strongest teams in the NHL in Carolina. Can't ask for much more than that. Topic 2, we got some Habs prospects raking in the awards, namely Sean Farrell and our boy Lane Hutson, who we talk about every day here, it feels like, at Habs Digest. He's been amazing. But first, Sean Farrell, no relation, but he went out there and he got the Ivy League Player of the Year. Straight up Player of the Year for the Ivy League. He had 18 goals, 29 assists for 47 points in just 29 games. Jesse, we had a little chat about this before the video started, but do you think Sean Farrell will be a Montreal Canadian come the start of next season?
I think he will. I think he's one of those players that will make the Montreal Canadiens next year, and I think that will put him in a position to succeed. I think we'll see him either on the second line, or I could see him on that first line along with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield, kind of freeing up Kirby Dach to take up that center position, which we've seen, which is one of the greatest and best revelations from this season so far. Kirby Dach can play center. Yeah. This is huge for this team. So I think that opens up. There's now an opening for Sean Farrell to take that spot alongside them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Farrell has looked so impressive in the NCAA. We'll have to see how his game translates, but like the point totals he's putting up at a good school and a good conference, like, you got to be excited for him. He's 21 years old. He's growing into his body. He looks so skilled, so I'm excited to see him next year. Another guy I'm excited to keep an eye on, maybe not going to be a Hab next year. In fact, almost certainly will not be. He's probably going to go back to Boston University as he grows and grows, but Lane Hutson, along with teammate Ryan Green, were named to the Hockey East All-Rookie team. But not only that, of course Lane Hutson was going to make the All-Rookie team. He was one of the best players in the conference, period. He's the first defenseman in Hockey East history to lead the conference in scoring. Like, not even just first, like, forward or rookie or wherever, whatever. First defenseman ever to lead him in scoring, and the first freshman to do it since Jack Eichel. I feel like we talk too much about Lane Hutson, so maybe we'll keep this short. But, like, is it even possible to be more impressed by Lane Hutson's season at this point? Like, I feel like we almost might be getting our hopes up too high with these crazy, crazy numbers.
You know, the numbers don't lie, you know, and he deserves the hype. There's a reason why we're talking about him. He's doing amazing things. A lot of these feats, you know, scoring more than the likes of Makar and Fox, you know, at the same age, like, those are huge accomplishments, you know, for himself. Like, just being the top in the NCAA in defensemen, you know, as a rookie, leading all of them in scoring, you know, it's just, like, absolutely incredible. Like, he's close to getting the totals as well that we saw from Sean Farrell, you know, and as a defenseman, you know, and Sean Farrell, like, he's, you know, like, for his points per game, he's actually ranked as the second most in the NCAA, and he's the guy that he's only behind is the guy who's probably going to be drafted second or maybe third overall this year in Adam Fantilli. So this is really good company that our two young prospects are keeping.
For sure. And it's just so exciting, right? Because prospects are unknowns, and when they put up these kind of numbers, you can't help but get a bit excited. Will they all pan out? No, absolutely not. But we can get excited because, like you said, Jesse, the company that they're with is really, really impressive. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye out in the future. Final thing today, we want to talk a bit about Mike Matheson. Sort of a teaser at the start of the video, but he's one of the best contracts in the NHL. Some people say he's near the best. Now, of course, there are some crazy contracts like Nathan MacKinnon making, $6 million a year. But Mike Matheson is outplaying his contract for sure right now. Take a look at this player card done by Andy and Rono. Go check them out. They do some amazing statistical stuff. I found this on their Twitter. Mike Matheson has a 92 grade, 88 offense percentage, 82 transition, 82 defense. And if you look at his main weaknesses, according to this chart, it's the power play and penalty kill, which I would argue has to do more so with Montreal as a team than Matheson himself. He's a positive in almost every other category, notably in the 90th percentile of offensive impact. And Jesse, that cap hit, $4.875 million, under $5 million a year for another 4 years. Like, straight up, I was sort of suspect, especially when he first started playing for Montreal, but since his injury, he has been on fire.
He's been absolutely amazing, and he's one of the players that really stood out for me the most last night. Just so mobile, so quick. The way that he was coming into the offensive zones at certain points, like I am really, really impressed by this player. He brings a unique skill set that this team really needs. So this contract is looking really, really good right now.
Really, really good, and especially as of late. I said he was on fire. I got the receipts to prove it. In his last 14 games, Mike Matheson has 12 points, 3 power play points, 4 goals, 8 assists in his last 14 games as a defenseman for Montreal, who doesn't score a lot of goals, and he's averaging about 25 minutes a game, Jesse. This guy is just... There's something different since he came back from his second injury. He looks a bit more fluid, looks a bit faster. I mean, do you think he has much to... Like, I don't know what's going on with him. Like, I wouldn't say, like, did he have much to prove rest of the season? He's locked up for a while. What do you think spurred this big response? Was it just finally rehabbing, finally resting with the All-Star break, or what?
I think you said it, and I mentioned it in a previous video. I think that it's definitely just rehabbing. Like, we saw him, what a healthy Mike Matheson can do. And I think before we were kind of seeing where he wasn't quite 100% back yet, but we had just so many injuries that he really maybe needed to get back a little bit earlier. But right now we're really seeing what he can do. But it also takes time to adjust to a new NHL team, new concepts, everything else. That it is definitely a factor, an underrated factor, I think, with a lot of players' performances when they do transition from another club. Mm-hmm. So I think we're seeing that. I think Martin St. Louis putting a lot of trust in him as well. And I think he's responding to that.
Yeah, I think so too. He's doing what he needs to do for this Montreal team, and he's leading by example for a lot of these young defensemen, which is about all you can ask for. That contract, when we first got it, people were like, maybe, is it really that much better than Petrie? But at this point, yeah, Pens fans really don't like that Petrie deal, and I'm pretty happy with Matheson for now, and let's just hope that continues for the rest of the season and beyond. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, help us hit 5,000 subs. We'd really appreciate it. I'm Josh Gosse for my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.